Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2215. Be prepared to be inspired. And today, we're going to go off-roading.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in beautiful Parker, Arizona with a very special guest. We're out in the dirt by the name of Jim Beaver. Jim, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Definitely ready to release the clutch. I've been driving my Subaru WRX STI the last few days, so I'm definitely used to the stick shift nowadays.
Nice. Those things are fun, especially when you get off pavement. Now, before I give you a proper introduction and we dive into this really fun world you've created for yourself, what's one little thing that maybe people don't know about Jim Beaver?
Let's see here. Something they don't know. A few of my listeners probably know because we've dove into this topic a little bit here and there, but a lot of people would be shocked to know I'm extremely introverted. And for somebody that does radio and TV for a living and does public appearances and speaking, you wouldn't realize that, but I am definitely extremely introverted. So something people don't know about me, that would probably be it.
What? Now, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense at all with as much exposure as you've created for yourself and your brand and for other people. It begs me to ask, because a lot of people are that way, and it's hard for them to get past that. What kinds of things did you do to overcome that situation?
The thing I found out, and it's like, this is funny because I've done a lot of public speaking, and it was like I was talking to somebody at the Off-Road Hall of Fame last year when I was doing that, and here I am in front of a room of 800 people, in Las Vegas, and I'm basically the MC of the whole thing. They go, and I was telling them, I said, to me, it's when I'm up on stage, I'm more comfortable than being in the audience, because in the audience, I have to carry on a conversation with people. If I said I'm on stage, I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to converse. I can be me. Yes, I'm talking to 800 people, but I'm not really talking to them. You know what I mean? So right. To me, it's easier to be up there because then I don't have to carry those personal conversations, things like that. It's funny, I was talking with, we had a great show with Leah Pruitt a couple years ago, and she was one of the biggest names in drag racing, right? And she was telling me, she goes, I'm completely introverted just like you. She goes, I have to flip a switch when the camera goes on and bring this personality out. And she goes, as soon as the camera goes off, she goes, I flip the switch and I go back into being just Leah that wants to go sit in the corner. There's a lot of us that have learned to flip the switch in this industry, but I think there's a lot more introverts than people know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw an interview with Jerry Seinfeld, and I have heard he doesn't really like to be approached by fans. He doesn't like to talk to fans. And I've seen some talks where he even says that. He goes, I don't like to talk to people. And somebody says, well, wait a minute. You talk to people all the time. He goes, yeah, but when you're up on a stage, you're not talking to a person. You're talking to a field of almost things. And they don't engage with you back. So you don't have to interact. You just project like when you're an MC. And I've done that. I've done some public speaking. And you're right. It's kind of like that old thing. Pretend everybody's in their underwear and it'll put you at ease because you're not. So that is the same kind of thing you're telling me. And I think that works for people. And then it slowly starts to translate into one-on-one and helps you be better with people one-on-one, right?
Yeah. And, and I have no problem talking with people. I love talking with people and things like that. Sometimes I go into my shell and not on purpose. I'll just sit back and listen to conversations happening at a table, and there'll be 5 or 6 people, and then I'll snap out of it and go, oh, I should be conversing here. And I'm just sitting listening, and it's like I'm not adding anything to it. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to be extroverted, Jim. Let's bring that guy out of shell and engage in this conversation. It's not that I'm not engaged, I'm listening. It's just I'm not responding or talking. And I'm like, oh, I can't be the shy guy in the corner. We need to talk. We need to add to this.
Listening is a great talent as well. You learn a lot more that way than speaking, so that's for sure. Well, let me get into your world because you've created quite a life for yourself around your passion. Jim Beaver is the president of JB15 Group, a full-service media, PR, marketing, branding, and motorsports agency representing some of the top athletes and brands in the world. He's a third-generation driver who races as a factory support for UTV driver in off-road racing and formerly raced trophy trucks, those monsters. He was the creator of the RZR Star Car program, where he brought celebrity teams to desert races while exposing them to the off-road culture and helping grow the sport. Jim brings off-road to the masses through the General Tire Jim Beaver Show, formerly known as the Down and Dirty Radio Show. The show airs on Sirius XM, 200 AM/FM networks in the United States, and 500 networks in 177 countries on the American Forces Network globally. Jim is also a franchised eNASCAR owner and owns the Jim Beaver Esports eShort Course Triple Crown and World Cup that airs on CBS Sports. He is also an accomplished television host and was the voice of multiple racing series. So no shy guy here today. We'll come back to Jim in just a moment, but first a word from our sponsors. They keep the fuel in the tanks here, so sit tight, buckle up. We're going to have some fun. We'll be right back. I've enjoyed the quality and variety of Lloyd's floor mats for decades now, and I'm super excited to report that Lloyd's Mat Store is now part of the Covercraft family of products. Car care that protects the things that move you. Lloyd's floor mats are the ultimate in quality and fit with carpet mats, all-weather mats, velour tex, Berber, classic loop carpet, and they're proudly made in the USA. They're designed and sewn with the highest of quality and offer custom fitment for almost any vehicle. There's a wide variety of styles, fabrics, and colors to choose from, and hundreds of licensed logos as well. Protect your vehicle's factory carpets from moisture, dirt, mud, snow, slush, anything that Mother Nature can throw your way. All of your options are quality made, easy to clean, they secure to the floor, and they look oh so good. Check out Lloyd's Mat Store for a wide variety of styles, colors, and options for your vehicle today. And I've got a special deal for you. If you use the code CARSYEAH, CARSYEAH at LloydsMatStore.com, you'll get $10 off. Just use the code CARSYEAH at LLOYDMATSSTORE.com, LloydsMatStore.com, Covercraft and Lloyd's Mats, protecting the things that move you. I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day, and he asked me about American Collectors Insurance. He said, while I listen to you on Cars Yeah, you're always talking about agreed value collector car insurance. Well, I insure all my cars on my regular auto insurance policy, and I've done it for years. Why use a different company for my collector cars? I get a multi-car discount. Isn't that good enough? I suggested he call his carrier and ask how much he would get if his collector car was totaled or stolen. He called back and said, boy, that was a scary conversation. The value of my car wasn't even close to what it's really worth. Thank you for the education, Mark. So don't just hope for a fair claim settlement. Be certain and know exactly what you'll receive with an agreed value policy. American Collectors Insurance has been protecting enthusiasts since 1976. Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of Mark Green's at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance, classic car insurance, designed by collectors for collectors, automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. I've teamed up with AutoGeek because, well, they've been the leading source of auto detailing products, accessories for more than 20 years. Their Pinnacle Sovereign Paste Wax is specially formulated from Brazilian carnauba wax. It's easy to apply on any paint surface and provides that warm glow that we love, especially me on my vehicles. You're going to love it too. A favorite of car shows countrywide, Pinnacle Sovereign Paste Wax from AutoGeek wipes on easily, requires no drying time, is easy to remove, and provides up to 90 days of protection against damaging environmental contaminants. This wax is designed to exceed the standards of the most discriminating enthusiasts and collectors. Go to autogeek.net to get yours for the best product selection on the internet today, along with their very skilled technical support. Autogeek.net. That's where I go for all my detailing needs. That's autogeek.net. So, Jim, let's go back a bit to the beginning before we dive into what you're doing today. What brought you to this field of off-road racing? And, I mean, you do so many things. Do you ever sleep?
Well, I guess the easiest thing, no, I don't sleep. And even when I sleep, I don't sleep because my mind's always spinning with projects and ideas and things like that. But What brought me to it, I mean, I've been involved in racing my entire life. My grandpa is one of the most accomplished boat racers of all time, is in the Boat Racing Hall of Fame. My dad got into off-road because my grandpa, after he'd retired from racing, he had some drivers, and my dad was training to be a boat racing driver, and one of my grandpa's drivers got killed in a boat racing accident, total fluke deal, and he just goes, you know what, boat racing's too dangerous, we're out. And about that time, off-road was kind of starting to take off in Parker, and there's a big story behind that, but that would take an hour to talk about. But my dad into off-road racing. And so that was early 70s. And, Mickey Thompson, Bill Stropp, all these people were involved in it. My dad, got surrounded by some amazing people because my grandpa knew them through boat racing. And so he got in there and, early 80s, I was born in 1980 and my dad was racing. So, I mean, we got pictures of me at the off-road track when I was literally like a couple weeks old, things like that. And so I kind of grew up in it. And, obviously when I became of age, my dad let me start racing with him a little bit and driving some of his vehicles. And, got to a point where, I'm in my early 20s, mid 20s, and then I found out racing's expensive, and Dad's not going to pay for everything forever.
Yeah.
Got to one of those things where, hey, how can I make a living at racing, and how do I get this thing funded? And to me, it was just I wanted an excuse to go racing, and so I had been on a radio show. We're talking late 2000s. And my sponsor go, hey, we got some value out of that 20 minutes on that radio show. I was like, oh, okay. All right. So if you got value out of me doing it for 20 minutes, if I hosted the whole show and owned all the commercial rights to it, I'm like, you probably get a whole lot of value.
A light bulb moment.
Yeah. And this was when we're talking 2011 by the time I kind of launched my show, and it was horrible when I started. It was absolutely just horrendous. I listened to that first episode. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I ever get to episode number 2?
Practice.
Yeah, we had 27 people tune into the first episode. I think it was just to see me fall on my face. But things went from there and took off. And that's another story in itself. But started out with that, and we called it a radio show. It was really kind of a podcast at the time, but podcasting was so early, nobody wanted to invest in podcasting. Now it's the opposite. You say radio, now I want to get involved in a podcast. Back then, you say podcast, no, we only invest in radio shows. So I called it a radio show, even though it was a podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Podcast, nobody wanted to touch at that point. Yeah, and I mean, fast forward, 12 years later now, and we're still cranking, and things have gone from just me doing 45 minutes to an hour once a week to multiple shows and television and this whole media and marketing company. And I've just been very, very fortunate in my life, and a lot of times at the right place at the right time, and met a lot of amazing people who've helped out along the way.
Well, it sounds like you've discovered the secret sauce to combining your passion into your career. And I'm not a big believer in luck. I think it's when you observe and you see opportunity and you're ready for it and you jump on it. And it sounds like that's what you've done. I mean, your voice is heard in so many places and all over the world, which is really cool. But I want to get back a little bit to the different things that you do within your business, because I love entrepreneurship. I love people that have businesses in the automotive sector. Of course, I've interviewed thousands of them. So can you talk a little bit about JB15 Group and all the different things that you do for your clients?
It's multifaceted because I'm involved in racing, podcasting, television, esports, things like that. So the answer is yes. What do we do what do you need? Yes, because we've got all these assets. So there's certain clients where we just handle their social media. Other clients, we just handle their press releases and their email. We've got certain clients where they've basically taken their entire marketing department and farmed it out to us. We handle budgets, events, sponsorships, social media, email, advertising, everything for them. And they've just they don't have a marketing department. They farm it out to me and my team. We've done some athlete representation agency work in the past, negotiating contracts, things like that. Some people need simply just a marketing deck, and we'll help them with a marketing deck. Got people that we help produce their podcasts. We're kind of all over the board. We've got some amazing people that work for our organization that have been around the industry for a very long time. So we kind of like to say we're a full stop shop. Whatever you need, we can probably do it. And if we can't, we'll tell you, but we'll refer to you to somebody who can.
So this explains why you don't sleep. You are a busy guy doing so many different things, and you still love to do racing too, right?
Yeah, I still love racing. That's what started this whole thing, was me and my racing addiction, and how can I do it more? And what do they say, when a hobby turns into a business? Yeah, such is the case here. But yeah, it's been phenomenal. I still race quite a bit. We made a big transition with manufacturers this year from Polaris to Kawasaki. So I've only raced twice this year. Got some new race cars, some new stuff we've got in the works. Had a phenomenal phenomenal year last year. I can't remember, something like 5 or 6 podiums in the last year and a half, and win second in the championship last year. So I think one of our 2 races this year, we're second place, 6th overall. So still love racing, still enjoy it. Hopefully 2023 we get back to doing a little bit more. But one of the big things in our industry is the companies are switching from hardcore racing to more lifestyle content. Everything's about lifestyle, in the automotive lifestyle and things like that. It's got to the point where, the whole race on Saturday, race on Sunday, sell on Monday thing isn't quite holding true as much as it used to be. It's influencers being in cars and out enjoying life because more people can associate with that. Not everybody can race, but everybody can go out on a Sunday drive through the canyons,
Yeah.
It's been an interesting shift we've seen in the industry, and I think a lot stems from COVID because there was no racing in COVID, so everybody just went outside and started enjoying life, and we've had that kind of carryover since COVID where people are still doing that, and it's kind of an interesting shift we've seen in the automotive industry and the race industry.
Boy, yeah, COVID changed a lot of things in so many ways. And in some ways, it brought new opportunity and gave people a chance to reevaluate and look at what they were doing. So there was some positive there, a lot more negative, but we'll focus on the positive. And for people that might not understand the kind of racing you do, can you describe what it is you've raced, for instance, this year, last year, what kind of vehicles you're running and where you're racing?
We run UTVs. In the past, it's been a Polaris RZR. Now it's going to be a Kawasaki KRX.
Mm-hmm.
The UTV. It's a desert race. So I raced Baja 500 down in Mexico. Baja 1000 is happening this weekend. Obviously, it'll be last weekend when this airs. But Vegas to Reno, the Mint 400, long form desert races, anywhere from 100 miles to 500, 600, 700 miles in length. So that's what I've grown up doing. In the past, I've raced trophy trucks, which are 900 horsepower, 36 inches of wheel travel. I enjoy it. I've done a little bit of the short course stuff. It's fun, but I'd much rather race for 8 hours than 30 minutes. So it's not for everybody, but it's what I grew up doing, and I still enjoy it completely.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, it's so cool. Well, I want to ask about what I call has been a real driving inspiration. You touched on family, which definitely put that DNA motor oil in your veins. Has there been somebody, a key influencer, mentor, somebody that really has helped you along the way to get to where you are today?
I definitely have to say my dad. My dad still to this day is my best friend, and we do a lot together. He's got a Ford dealership. It's been in the family for over 100 years, one of the oldest Ford dealerships.
Did you say 100 years?
Yeah, it's been in the family for over 100 years. It's one of the oldest dealerships in the country. And he took that over, and I saw kind of the entrepreneur spirit, small town Ford dealer. So business wise, I've been able to pick his brain. Racing, obviously, he grew up with his dad boat racing. He's grown up racing. I've learned so much about reading terrain, things like that through my dad. And he and I talk daily, whether it be business, racing, just life. One of those, we have our evening beer together and kind of decompress and talk about things. And definitely my dad wouldn't be where I'm at without him. And in business, things have got a little rough for me here and there when you're trying to grow something. And obviously we're doing well now, but when things started out, there was times where money was really tight and trying to get the business going. And my dad had kicked me $1,000, and say, pay me back later, and things like that. Just so we had a little money in the bank and I could pay a couple bills and things like that. So been a massive supporter of me.
Nice. You're very fortunate to have him in your life for sure, but you know that. If somebody wanted to get into the field of racing, off-road racing, at any level, how would you advise them to get started? Where does somebody go to learn more about all this and get involved?
More about off-road racing? Man, there's a lot of places to do it. I would definitely say before you go and decide to race, come out to a race. Desert racing's an interesting beast in its own. Definitely start out with something that's kind of a loop race, something like the Mint 400 or Laughlin, but definitely start out in one of the lower classes. A lot of people immediately go, they've got a lot of money, they're wealthy, and you can go and start in a trophy truck if you want. That's one of the weird things about off-road. Zero experience, you can go all the way to the top class. NHRA doesn't allow you to go run a top fuel car in your first race. IndyCar doesn't allow you to go run the Indianapolis 500 in your first race. You can't go run the Daytona 500 in your first stock car race, but in off-road, some odd reason, we'll allow you to race a trophy truck.
Yeah, if you can afford it and build it, you can be here.
Yeah, if you've got a big enough checkbook, you can do whatever you want in off-road. But I steer people against that because they get into trouble real quick. And these are definitely very high-end race vehicles. But, there's some stock UTV classes. There's some stock truck classes, some arrive and drive stuff that's phenomenal. It's an organization called Trophy Light that does arrive and drive rentals. For a few $1,000, you can get behind the wheel of a truck. And it's like a miniature trophy truck. It's got a little 4-cylinder engine. And the suspension and everything is the same. It's just miniaturized, so it doesn't go nearly anywhere close to as fast. but it still gives you the thrill of, driving a big truck. So I would say, there's definitely some places like that, but I'd say come out to a race, enjoy it, take it all in, ask questions. People love answering the questions. Come out to one and take it all in and then get an idea of what you're in for and then go from there.
And talk to a lot of people, but we'd be remiss not to mention a mutual group that we've both been involved with is Dirtfish up here in the Pacific Northwest. Is you can go to some of these rally schools, and I've had many rally school owners and people from across the country, and you can jump in a car and drive in the dirt and just kind of see what it's like. That's a fun thing to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Dirtfish has been a partner of mine for almost a decade now, and it's an amazing place to go. I'm fortunate enough I get to go up there a couple times a year, and I love the Washington area, up there outside of Seattle. But Dirtfish is a great time. I mean, they've got anywhere from half day to 3 days of training, and I've seen people that didn't even know how to drive a stick shift go in there, and all of a sudden by the end of 3 days, they're threading the needle through a bunch of pine trees and stuff like that, doing stuff you never would have thought possible. They've had everybody from 16-year-olds to women in their 90s go and drive rally cars and things like that. So I would say if you want the thrill of racing to see if it's for you and you want to get a proper foundation of fundamentals, Dirtfish is definitely a great option.
Absolutely. I had Steve Rimmer owns that company, and I had his daughter Josie on the show here. Oh gosh, I think it was actually earlier this year, back in April. You can go back and listen to her talk about her involvement with Dirtfish, but you can look them up. They're easy to find. It's a great group to run with. We'll take a short break. Thank our sponsors. We come back. I've got some more questions for you, so sit tight. We'll be right back. You've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine here on Cars Yeah for a couple of years now. Well, they're growing. And in 2023, they're going to grow from 4 issues a year to 6. And there's an opportunity here for you to take advantage of this growth. If you go to linkagemag.com and click on the Renew button, if you already subscribe, you can get a great deal. Use the code RENEW6 for 1 year, and you'll get 6 issues for the price of 4, or type in Renew 12 for 2 years, where you also have a great savings. Plus, they'll even throw in a free Linkage hat. How cool is that? The publisher of Linkage is Donald Osborne. He's been a guest multiple times here on Cars Yeah. He's become a good friend of mine, and I'll tell you, Linkage Magazine is one of those newer magazines that you're going to want to get. It's all about experiences, opinions, and values. It's a wonderful publication, something I look forward to getting. And now that I'm going to be getting 6 a year, even more special. So go to linkagemag.com. Again, use the code RENEW6 or RENEW12 to get that special deal. Do it before December 31st, 2022, so that in 2023, you'll get 6 issues of Linkage Magazine instead of 4. Today's vehicles are essentially computers on wheels, and it takes more than a wrench and oil to keep them humming. That's why Cars Yeah supports TechForce Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to driving tomorrow's workforce of skilled technicians forward. Techs keep our cars, trucks, airplanes, and fleets rolling. Yet there's a massive tech shortage because many young people don't know it's no longer a blue-collar job. Today, it's a new-collar career. It involves computers, technology. It's in high demand. You get paid really well, and you can live and work anywhere in the country. I know you're passionate about cars, trucks, and motorcycles, and you can help pass that passion on to the next generation of techs so our rides keep rolling down the road. Visit techforce.org today and learn how. So, Jim, let's talk about obstacles. You talked about when you are starting a business, and for yourself and for everybody, there's some tough times trying to figure out how to get through them. Can you talk about a time in your life when you faced a big challenge or failure? But more importantly, what was that really valuable lesson that you could look back and say, well, I'm kind of glad I went through that. That taught me some great things.
Well, I think, the biggest thing in business, and it doesn't matter what business you're in, the biggest thing is I have something I like to say, adapt or die. It's one of those where I truly believe that. I'm always looking where's the next opportunity, things like that. Businesses that start out, regardless of what they do, I can almost guarantee you, 5 years in, 10 years in, you're not doing things exactly the same way, or you're not doing the same thing that you did when you started, because industries change, media changes, consumers change, products change, things like that. So I think, one is always be on the lookout, always adapt, be aware of what's happening in your given industry so you can make changes on the fly. And, I've always got 1, 2, 3 year plan. Like, hey, what can can we do next year to kind of expand, or what do we see coming next year that we need to be aware of? And where do we think we should be 3 years from now? And what should we be doing 3 years from now that'll keep us current? So I think that's one of the big things. But I think, this goes into challenge. I mean, gosh, when COVID hit, I think it was a challenge for everybody. And a lot of people are on their heels. And fortunately enough for us, in our organization, we had enough eggs in multiple baskets where when COVID hit, as nervous as I was, our company thrived during COVID. And, as bad as that was for everybody in the industry and people losing their lives and everything else that happened, our business was in a very good position with the different assets we had in place with esports and podcasting and television and things like that, where when nobody else could produce content, nobody else really had much, we were still able to continue to crank things out. And we actually grew tremendously during 2020 when COVID hit, just because we were so progressive in the way we looked ahead. It wasn't that we knew COVID was coming. It wasn't that anybody knew COVID was coming. But we had enough assets in place where we knew, hey, if something drastic happens and changes in industry, are we still going to be able to keep things afloat? And we had made those kind of changes to our business and put enough eggs in various baskets. So when it did hit, we didn't know what was going to hit, but when it did, we were okay and we were still able to be on our feet. So I think that's one of the biggest things is just forward looking and don't rest on your heels. And, I know a lot of people have the last couple of years had some great years, and it's like, man, they're printing money. Realtors, real estate's printing money. Everybody's making money, right? It's one of those where it's now we see potentially a recession coming, things like that. So as you made money, what did you do to prepare yourself for what's next? And I think that's one of the big things is always preparing for what next, or as I like to say, adapt or die.
I love the metaphor here, adapt or die, because it really relates to off-road racing. When you're racing off-road, most of the time you don't know what is quite coming next, and you've got to adapt or die. Where did that boulder come from? Or where did that hill come from? Or these whoop-de-doos weren't here last year. So there's a lot of correlation there to what you just said to business. And yeah, definitely. I saw a lot of people who I've had on the show during the COVID situation figured out alternate ways to stay in business, to do business, and so forth. And you mentioned printing money. We won't get into that too deep, but I think that's part of why we're in the trouble we are in now. Whenever you've got the government printing way too much money, guess what happens? So yeah. And you better be prepared because these recessions will come. I've lived through 4 or 5 of them now. They will come again in the future, so you always got to be prepared. Great advice you've offered there. Bucket list items. If you look ahead, and you're a guy who likes to look ahead, any racer knows you've got to look way down the course. What's coming up in 2023? Do you have some great plans of some fun things you can share with us?
Man, we've got some fun projects. Obviously people that follow me on Instagram knows that I guess 2 nights ago I was at the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood. One of the iconic, music venues in the entire world. So I've always wanted to do a project there. So we're working on a potential project there. To me, just actually going and watching a show there is a bucket list. Then possibly doing a project at the Whiskey A Go-Go. To me, it's just, it's an iconic music venue and I love music. So just being able to do a project there and possibly infuse automotive culture into Hollywood and then, rock and roll music scene is kind of fun. So bucket list, I've always wanted to go to the Monaco Grand Prix. I can't say that I'm going this year because my daughter graduates 8th grade during the Monaco Grand Prix, but that's definitely a bucket list. But I am planning on going to Goodwood, the Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK, and that's been a bucket list of mine for many, many years. So definitely looking forward to going to Goodwood this year. There's just so much. I mean, I would love to go to the Formula One race in Las Vegas. I've looked at ticket prices and hotel room. I'm going, this isn't going to happen.
That to me, I saw that. I just went, this doesn't feel good at all. I mean, it seems like massive price gouging. And I did read something that, and this, being around racing, putting on a venue like that in a city like that is so expensive. I mean, so expensive. So I realize there's some costs there they've got to recoup, but I just found that to be utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's kind of me. I'm looking at it going, I don't have a problem paying a premium for something that I view as a premium, but at the end of the day, that's just too much.
It's like going out to eat at a 5-star restaurant where your meal is $1,000 and you go, there's some point where it's just food, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a difference in paying $100 for a meal and $1,000 for a meal.
Yeah, no kidding.
when I'm looking at the Monaco Grand Prix, going to Monaco is actually cheaper than going to Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is 2.5 hours from my house. We have a problem.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I think that's a good correlation.
and
Well,
so
yeah, all fun stuff. I mean, there's some great adventures looking ahead, and I love your entire idea that you've always got to be looking way down the road, not only next year, but maybe 3 years, so you can start to build towards that. So a lot of fun coming up in 2023. Let's talk about a special vehicle in your life. One vehicle you've had that really stands out. Could you share something about that car or that racer?
oh man, one that stands out. It's tough because my dad owning a car dealership, I was always taught never get attached to vehicles.
Yeah, because you're going to sell it.
They're not going to be around long. I mean, I love my first truck. I had a 87 Ford Ranger, and we put kind of a lift on it, and I went out and off-roaded the crap out of that thing. And I learned how to drive in that truck. It was a complete pile, but I learned. So I love that. Probably my first real truck that I bought new. I think it was a 99 Ford F-150, and it had a stick shift, four-wheel drive, and I put probably 150,000 miles on that truck.
Wow.
And I love that, and I still see it driving around my hometown to this day, and it's probably got to have 500,000 miles on it at this point. And I've always laughed going, you know what, I'm going to buy that truck back at some point. So bright red F-150 regular cab with a stick shift, and for some odd reason, there's nothing special about the truck, but it was just one of those. It was my first vehicle I ever bought that was new. And so it's kind of, it's got a special place in my heart. But as far as like vehicles, I mean, I don't know. I get attached to them for about 15 minutes, and then he sells it or comes and makes me a decent offer to sell it. And then, and then get something else. So it's just, I'm a car person, and to a fault, where I have a lot of turnover between UTVs and motorcycles and cars. There's always a revolving door of vehicles coming in and out. So
yeah, well, that goes back to your family dealership ownership, and I think that's absolutely true. We had a guy on our street that ran and owned a Chevy dealership, and he'd drive home a different car every day, and I would get excited about it. And then a week later, I said, "What happened to that yellow Z28? Oh, I sold it." Why would you sell that? Well, I'm a car dealer. That's why. So that's what we do. But yeah, I'm the opposite. I keep cars for a long, 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 long time. I don't know. I get attached as well, but there you go. You're probably a lot wiser because you've had a lot more experiences. I'm going to be your car psychologist today. I've got a doctorate in this deal. I'm going to crawl into your head. If you were manifest or reincarnated as a vehicle, this isn't what you want to be, though, Jim. This is how you perceive yourself deep down inside. What would you be and why?
not what I want to be, because I know what that would be.
Well, of course, we all want to be a sexy, sleek something, right?
What am I? Probably a little bit, I would say probably a Ford F-150, but you got to get the trim level right, you know? So I kind of that Ford F-150, I'm a workhorse. I got no problem, putting in the work, getting a little beat up. I wouldn't be like a platinum edition because that's just a little too polished. Nobody wants to get that dirty. I'd probably be more like a Lariat, where it's got some nice features and things like that, but you still don't have a problem going and getting it out in the mud and taking it and getting a little ding or a dent, or, we call them greasewood stripes down the side. So I'd be like a four-wheel drive F-150, but probably like a Lariat trim level or something like that. Like still a little rough around the edges, not quite as refined as some might like.
All right. That's a good answer to that. Kind of what I expected from you. So there you go. How about a great book? We love books here. So perhaps a great book you've cracked open and enjoyed that you'd like to share?
I mean, I've got a couple. I would say anything that my friend Alex Striller has written. He writes motorsports marketing books. Phenomenal if you're looking for content on motorsports marketing. Probably in the last couple of years, one of my favorite books I've read, though, absolute phenomenal read, is Shoe Dog, Phil Knight from Nike. And talks about the struggles that, starting a company and, literally paycheck to paycheck, and robbing Peter to pay Paul, and, and how Nike, grew from literally a guy, that had nothing to where it is today. And phenomenal read. I would definitely say Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight story, is probably one of my favorite books the last couple of years.
A lot of people, and those are great books. There's a couple others about, people super successful that you don't know about their background. Another was Howard Schultz with Starbucks, and One Cup at a Time, or Pour Your Heart Into. I forget the title of that book is, but same kind of thing. But yeah, Shoe Dog is great. You start to realize what it really takes to build an empire like that, and how those breakthrough moments come through, but how close they come almost every day to the whole thing caving in. It's incredible. So 2 great books. Real quickly, how do you spell Alex's last name so I get his books right?
Alex Striller. It's Striler.
So let's go on the ultimate drive. You've been on a lot of ultimate drives with all your racing and your driving, but today I'm the benefactor. I'm going to write a check. Doesn't matter what it costs. I'm going to provide you with any vehicle. You can go anywhere and you can take anybody, even somebody from the past who's not with us anymore, which makes the ride very interesting. So what does the ultimate drive look like for you?
Man, the ultimate drive, I guess, vehicle wouldn't matter as much. Something fun. Biggest thing is I definitely take my grandpa. I had a phenomenal relationship with my grandpa growing up. And, he passed away 11, 12, 13 years ago, kind of before I started my company. And there's been so many times, he was my dad's mentor. And my dad and me and my grandpa were all three very, very close. But my grandpa never got to see kind of this phase of my life. And there's been so many times I've wanted to pick his brain. I wanted to ask him questions. And people that knew my grandpa say I'm a complete mix of my dad and my grandpa, who are both kind of polar opposites. And if you know, I'm literally a 50-50 mix of the two of them. And I would definitely say my grandpa would be a blast because he was an adventurer. He was a traveler, very much like me. And I don't know, there's so many places I'd love to go. He loved Europe. It'd be fun to drive around Europe because I've never really experienced Europe, but honestly, just even a coast to coast drive, Los Angeles to New York City type of thing would be fun, I think, with a lot of stops along the way.
Yeah, just spending some time talking with him. Fantastic. Well, looks like you got some great pieces of both of your father and your grandpa, which is pretty darn nice. So a nice evolution, if you will. So that would be super cool. Well, you've taken us on a great trip today. I'm really glad that we connected, and I want to do a shout out to a mutual friend, Matt Martelli. He's a past guest here on Cars Yeah at Mad Media. He introduced me to Jim. So Matt, thank you very much. Before I let you go today, Jim, could you share some parting words of wisdom or advice or a mantra that might inspire some folks listening today?
Oh man, words of advice. I would just say keep pushing forward. If you're whether you're looking to start a race program, you're looking to start a company, entrepreneur stuff, whatever it may be. I mean, the biggest thing is there's going to be struggles. Just, you got to keep going. There's days when you want to close the doors. Man, there was more days than not, and honestly, Matt was, you mentioned Matt Martelli. He was a very close friend of mine. He was one of the guys that kept going. And, I'm 6 months, 2 years in. Things are rough. Matt just said, Jimmy, you just got to keep pushing. He goes, guarantee you, 3 to 5 years from now, he goes, we're going to be having completely different conversations. And he, right. I just kept pushing, and you're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad weeks, bad months, bad years.
Yeah.
But if you just keep pushing on, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just may not see it right now, but at some point the light will be there and it'll get brighter and brighter. So you just got to keep pushing on.
Absolutely. It's akin to what I've interviewed hundreds of racers, and every one of them says a similar thing or these words: never, ever, never, ever give up. And keep pushing forward, the words of a racer, words of a great business person. So thanks for that advice. How can people learn more about JB15 Group and everything you do?
Yeah, obviously you can go follow me on social media. It's at JimBeaver15. That's the easiest way. Obviously, I've got a bunch of, I've got a link tree in my account, some of our business accounts. On the web, it's JimBeaver15.com. A lot of contact info there. We've got a staff writer, so lots of daily motorsports content. All of our radio shows are posted there. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Jim Beaver Show, give us a subscribe there. We're all over SiriusXM 217, Saturdays and Sundays. You can find that info out on our website as well.
There you go. Yes, you are everywhere. That's very cool. Well, Jim, hey, thanks for spending time with me. You taught me a lot today, and I've really, really enjoyed our talk. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you probably somewhere down a dirt road.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.